While the Bigfoot is right now in that realm of legend.
We're gonna go as fast as we can, but as quietly as we can, not to scare it off, whatever it is.
From a shocking experience with what could only be the fabled cryptid during their childhood, to one of the most chilling experiences with this legendary beast ever, here is how Dr. Mireya caught Bigfoot. The story of the human race is that of curiosity. From the days where our earliest ancestors were constricted within our caves, we couldn't help but wander off to explore this bright blue world of ours. Since then, we have gone on to make discovery after discovery, so much so that some may consider that it won't be too long before we actually figure out the whole planet in its entirety. That said, there are still some things that remain a mystery to us. One of the things that linger on in the realm of the strange and mysterious is the legend of Bigfoot.
Sighting reports there go back into the 1800s and before.
In 1979, a Bigfoot-type creature known as Nobby was reported multiple times only 40 miles away from this particular location.
Till today, despite the efforts of many, we still aren't even sure if this creature truly exists. For more than a century or so, the people of North America have been plagued by the debate on the existence of Bigfoot. This is perhaps because most of the stories concerning this creature have been circumstantial at best, with many people not knowing if we can truly believe what these people say they saw. Then there is also the fact that aside from these stories, any photos or videos of these creatures that have emerged so far have been so blurry or so unclear that rather than serving as corroborative evidence that this supposedly giant hairy bipedal humanoid creature is out there, it just adds more credence to the beliefs of those who doubt that the creature even exists. As a result, many in the scientific community have dismissed those who dedicate their time and effort to prove that the legendary Bigfoot exists and is out there.
This cast, look at this cast. We have the toes across the front, what looks like an instep or an arch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a divergent little toe right here, which I really like. That comes down. I think it's safe to say that's a very strong resemblance between the two.
Is Bigfoot really out there? Despite this, many people are still out there, looking for ways to force this creature out its hiding place. That is why people like Dr. Mireya and the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team are highly regarded by the Bigfoot enthusiasts, despite the fact that the others in the scientific community have turned their noses up at them. Thanks to their efforts, though, we are starting to ask some important questions as they attempt to track this mysterious creature down. One of the questions that people seem to ask as we search for the legendary Bigfoot is how exactly does it sound? After all, if you approach a rattlesnake, for example, you are likely to hear it rattle its tail before it strikes. As such, Bigfoot must come with a sound. As such, we are compelled to ask if Bigfoot communicates with grunts and other primal sounds, or if it is actually able to speak. Maybe with a mix of sign language? That would be amazing, right? This and many other issues have come up as we search for this elusive creature in the forests. Are we unable to find it because they hide in some of the deepest parts of the forest? Well, it looks like the Expedition Bigfoot team may have had a stroke of luck with their search in recent times. This is because they came across this report made by Stacy, who came from Alaska. This report began from a point in which Stacy was basking in the glory of what nature had to offer in Alaska. The distant sounds of the chirping of insects and birds amid the rustle of leaves in the area created a peaceful ambience for all those who were in the area at that time. However, something seemed to be different for Stacy on this fateful day. Turns out that Stacy was in the woods with his buddies. As the group made the most of their campfire by sharing stories amid taking swigs of their beverages, it was clear this was a jolly good time because they were enjoying each other's company. The night would have come to its usual conclusion as the group would have retreated into their tent for the night. They were startled into attention when they heard a series of strange sounds brought an end to the serene silence of the night. They were all confused by the odd rhythmic knocks that seemed to come out of nowhere. They all stood still as the noise echoed through the trees around them, perhaps reminding them that they are not in their natural habitat. Some could say that the noises reminded them that they were in someone else's territory. Pretty unnerving stuff. What was clear was that there was something unusual in the area. Fortunately enough, it seemed as though Stacy's dad was one with nature, perhaps more than the other members of the camp. Turns out that he was also very familiar with the paranormal, and as such, He was eager to find out where this sound came from. Listening out for where this knocking sound was coming from must have been difficult because they seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But Stacy's dad and the other men in the camp did all they could to keep their focus, despite how unnerving the situation was. You couldn't blame them for being wary about the situation because the noises were quite unlike anything they had ever heard in the past. All they could compare the sound to was the noises that a woodpecker would make when it's using its beak to hammer into trees. Despite the similarity to noises off that of a woodpecker, they did notice that this noise was somewhat deeper. Even more disturbing was the consistency of these noises, so much so that this curiosity in the strange and unusual seemed to evolve into fear the longer they were there. Truly spooky stuff, especially as they did not know what they were listening to while they were out there in the woods. An experience of a lifetime. Despite the nature of the noise, Stacy and the rest of the camp figured that they would be able to make it through the night if they just ignored the noise. Great idea, right? Well, the folly of the plan soon exposed itself when they realized that not only was the noise growing louder, it was also occurring in a more frequent manner. All this created an atmosphere of fear for the camp. To make matters worse, this fear was amplified when they were startled by one of the eeriest screams most of them would ever hear in their entire lives. Erupting from the bowels of the forest, the scream seemed to pierce through the night like a dagger in the heart. It definitely pierced through the resolve of the camp members. Despite this unnerving fear, Stacy's father was no punk. Rather than shivering in fear, he felt that they had to go out there to investigate what was going on. Once he regained his composure, he was able to rally the troops so that they could grab their flashlights before getting out there. This was no easy task because the deeper they got into the woods, they realized how dark and how scary these woods around there were. Well, they would get more than they bargained for because they would come across a discovery that would be equally as exciting as it was terrifying. This discovery came in the form of large footprints that seemed to lead away from their camp. Sure, the footprints were large, but they seemed to shock everyone who saw them because they were way too large to belong to human beings. Shocked by what they saw, Stacy's dad and his companions exchanged worried looks with one another as they realized that they were on the verge of making a groundbreaking discovery. This encounter would leave Stacy and the rest of the camp shaken to their very core. For Stacy, though, this proved to be the experience that would spark an interest in Bigfoot that would last for the rest of his life. Stacy and Dr. Mireya Mayer searched for Bigfoot. Many years later, Stacy, who was now an adult, had dedicated his time and efforts to fuel his passion in the legendary cryptid. Eager to find out the truth about his experience, he documented all the sightings and interviews with witnesses that he could get his hands on. Not satisfied with this data, he did all he could to research the lore concerning this legendary creature, so much so that you could even describe him to be one of the Bigfoot experts you find out there. Still dissatisfied with what he knew, Stacy decided that he would go out into the wild to see if he could have another experience. This exploration took him to some of the places which were known for strange encounters with this elusive creature, from the thick swamps of Florida to the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. Well, these adventures would prove to be useful, even though he never really came across the legendary creature during this time. This is because while he was out there, he just happened to come across Dr. Mireya Mayer. As we all know, Dr. Mireya Mayer is one of the leading primatologists out there, thanks to her long career researching unclassified primate behavior while also developing an almost unsatisfiable interest in our legendary cryptid. To feed this interest, she gathered all the data she could find. We're talking about a collection of compelling photos, audio and video recordings, as well as witness evidence that heavily suggests that Bigfoot truly is out there. Once the pair came in contact with each other, they saw the benefit of collaborating with one another in order to bring this mystery to an end. In order to achieve this, the pair and their teams went into the wild to search for this creature, with special emphasis being put on the places where people have reported experiencing sightings of Bigfoot. They seem to be among the best of the Bigfoot researchers out there, because not only did they have the state-of-the-art tech to track this creature down, they also had a reasonable amount of skepticism as they went along with their search for this mysterious creature. However, we all know that no matter how hard you plan, real life has a way of getting into the way of things. After some time, They all acknowledged that they were experiencing exactly what every Bigfoot hunter has experienced while they were out there looking for it. Finding Bigfoot has always been easier said than done. Despite setting up motion detectors among their other advanced tracking equipment, they realized that they had been out there for weeks without even getting a glimpse of the legendary creature. It just seemed to be another expedition in which they would just have to enjoy the journey instead of soaking in the glory of their discovery. However, just when they thought they had come all the way out there for nothing, something really exciting took place. As they were pushing on with their search for Bigfoot one fateful evening, Stacy and Dr. Mayer were caught by surprise when they heard a series of loud noises thudding against the trees in the forest. What could be responsible for that? That must have been the question that ran through the mind of the pair as they exchanged frenzied looks with one another. Excited as ever, the pair rushed to what they determined to be the source of the noise. Little did they know that this would be a pivotal moment in their careers. They were about to discover proof that Bigfoot was definitely real.
Each year, there are hundreds of Bigfoot sightings across the country. Some people devote their lives to the pursuit of the creature. While there's no conclusive proof Bigfoot exists, when some new evidence pops up, you can bet we're going to check it out.
What Tony and his team saw when they went in search for Bigfoot. These astounding discoveries soon created a buzz in the scientific community worldwide. This opened the doors for discussions that would have been considered to be ridiculous in the past. This would prove to be just the tip of the iceberg in this epic tale, as everyone was eagerly waiting for more details of the discovery made by Dr. Mireya, Mayer, and Stacy. This takes us to Tony Harris, an individual who had dedicated much of his life to searching for Bigfoot. Tony, though, was eager to go where others wouldn't. Armed with his own state-of-the-art equipment, he ventured into the wild, hoping to come across the legendary cryptid while he was out there. One night, while he was still out there in one of the most remote forests in the Pacific Northwest, Tony and his team set their equipment up at a spot that was rumored to experience frequent Bigfoot sightings. As the day turned to night, the team waited eagerly for anything to happen, all the while appreciating the sounds of nature that buzzed and rustled through the darkness of the night. Just as the team was getting used to the state of things, they were all startled to attention when he heard a loud knock that stood out in the dead of night. Shaken yet excited, Tony could barely contain his excitement. He had heard of such a knock before, and he was hoping that these were the knocks that were rumored to accompany Bigfoot whenever he made one of his notorious appearances. Hoping to make the most of such an opportunity, Tony got his team to get ready with their recording devices. This might be exactly what they and many others have been praying for. Excited and nervous, the team got into position in the most strategic positions they could imagine. All the members of the team were startled and amazed at the same time as more thuds resonated all through the forest. As the team wondered in amazement as they listened to these thuds, things went up a notch when they were all startled by what could only be described as one of the most shocking screams you could ever imagine. It seemed to be the type of screams that sent shivers down your spine because it could only mean one thing. There must be something truly feral and savage out there. Almost frightened out of their wits, the team members exchanged terrified glances at one another, perhaps only just realizing how dangerous it was for them to be out there searching for this legendary cryptid. All they could do was do their best to stay calm. Thankfully, Tony recognized this and employed his team not to panic. They may actually be on the verge of the most important part of their search for Bigfoot. Once they were able to regain their composure, the team did all they could to make the most of this moment. With that in mind, they all resolved to find a way to draw whatever this is closer to them. In order to achieve this, they decided to play recordings of calls they believed to imitate the noises that Bigfoot itself makes. Things took an exciting turn as the team waited. Before long, they noticed that their thermal camera had detected what looked to be this odd heat signature. It was odd because whatever this thing was, it seemed to be both large and swift in the strangest manner, as it was capable of swiftly making its way through the trees as if it was a much smaller creature. As you can imagine, such an image left the team stunned beyond words. They knew that something unbelievably huge was rapidly making its way towards them, and as such, they knew that this was a massive moment for them. Heck, it could even be the last moment of their lives. Hoping for some more calm among the team members, Tony signaled for the guys to remain as silent as possible so that they could focus just as the creature moved even closer to them. They were all taken aback by this massive creature that was making its way towards them, and as such, it was a difficult task to remain calm in this moment. Regardless of this difficulty, they knew that they had to make sure they were recording this incredible scene. Thankfully, Tony was on cue to press the record button so that it could capture most of what had happened on this fateful night. Keeping as still as possible, Tony and the rest of the team could only watch in awe at what was happening before them. Perhaps thankfully, this allowed them to catch some short glimpses of the creature. This in turn also allowed them to take in some of the features of what was moving around before them. They were all fascinated by how broad its shoulders were, how powerful its limbs seemed to be as it tread through the thick woods, and how shaggy this hairy beast was. After overcoming how fascinating this creature was, the team couldn't help but appreciate this moment in its entirety. This has been the breakthrough that they had been hoping for after exploring North America for so many years. They were so happy about what they had just experienced that the moment the creature departed from the scene, the team jumped up in celebration. Their celebrations were even more jolly when they looked at the footage they recorded, because they could all see how this massive creature was making its way through the thick forest. This told them that they had definitely gotten proof that Bigfoot really is out there. No longer can Bigfoot be relegated to the realm of myth or fable. Now they had undeniable proof that Bigfoot was indeed real. What the future holds for the search for Bigfoot. When you combine this evidence with what Stacy and his father experienced all those many years ago, even the most dissenting of observers would tell you that Bigfoot may need to be taken seriously. No longer can lore concerning this creature be relegated to the realm of pseudoscience. Now people are jumping to bring the study of cryptids to the realm of serious science. With all these people experiencing a newfound interest in this creature, the only thing that seems to linger in the minds of those following this search for this legendary cryptid is what may truly be out there. For now, though, we all seem to be thrilled by these discoveries. Add the fact that this new interest comes with new technology and even newer evidence to boot, and you cannot blame the Bigfoot enthusiasts for perhaps feeling that they were even closer to discovering the legendary cryptid. With each new encounter and each fresh discovery of evidence, it seems as though the legend of Bigfoot may truly be coming to an end. As exciting and encouraging as this may be, we may have to remain grounded in the sense that we are still quite far from bringing this mystery to an end. With that in mind, the whole world is excitedly watching so that they can see what is going to happen in the near future. Right now, people like Russell Accord, another one of the members of the Expedition Bigfoot team, alongside Dr. Mireya Mayer, are still out there with their high-tech equipment, hoping and praying that his incessant effort will bring him even closer to the discovery of the legendary cryptid itself. With such people still pushing on to find this creature out in its element, there is still every chance that this could happen. After all, what is a few more years of wandering around in some of the most remote woods and forests in all of North America, when many have been doing so for more than a century now? Sure, they did not have the equipment that we may have today, but that only means that we have the advantage today. As such, there is every chance that we are really drawing closer to bringing this legendary creature out of the woods once and for all. Maybe we are truly on the verge of discovering the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot. From a shocking experience with what could only be the fabled cryptid during their childhood to one of the most chilling experiences with this legendary beast ever, here is how Dr. Mireya Mayer caught Bigfoot.